Hey everyone, I am just going to make a quick recipe. Tonight I'm making Instapot chicken, broccoli, and rice. And this is one of my family's favorites. And a lot of people have come up to me and said, hey, can you do a video explaining how to use the Instapot? And it's kind of difficult because I can't really do them live because it takes forever. But I'm going to do my best to like pause things and then and put this video together for you. So with this recipe, the typical recipe, I double it. And that way there's enough for my family and enough for leftovers, okay? So that's what we're going to be doing. So the first thing you want to do is you want to unthaw your chicken breast. I use 3 large chicken breasts. I would say, around 2 to 3 pounds of chicken. Hard to tell. I just use 3 large, I would say this size chicken breasts. I unthaw them and then I dice them up or, put them into chunks. So I've done that already, okay? The next thing that I do is I take 1 large onion and I dice that all up. So that's all in there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and get out my garlic, okay? These 3 ingredients are what you're going to be sauteing in your Instapot. So I'm going to take my camera now and I'm going to show you what you're pushing on your Instapot. Okay, so here's your Instapot. I'm not really sure why mine's flickering. It's just flickering on the screen but not on the actual Instapot. So you're going to go ahead and there's this saute button. You're going to go ahead and click it. What this is doing, don't worry about it saying 8 minutes, okay? What this is doing is this is just basically like you've started your pan on the stove and it's getting warmed up so that you can cook some of these, just brown it. So what I'm going to do next is take some butter, and you can take butter or you can take oil, whatever your preference, olive oil. This particular recipe I'm using about let's just say, I'm sorry, I'm trying to do this with my hands. This is about, I would say 3 tablespoons of butter. I'm going to put that in my Instapot. Okay, and my Instapot right now, like I said, it's getting warmed up here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw my chicken breast in. Okay, and I'm also going to throw in my onion. Okay, and then for garlic, it's calling for 2 cloves of garlic. I don't ever measure garlic. 2 cloves of garlic. So I'm trying to do this with one hand. I'm probably going to put in 3 tablespoons. I mean, that's just me. You can use actual directions, but I don't. I just kind of do that. Okay, and so I'm going to try to put this back to show you what's going on. Okay, so what this is doing is we're just trying to get this cooked a little bit, okay? You're not cooking it all the way. So I would say this is getting nice and hot, and I would say give it, what I'm going to basically do is I'm going to keep stirring every once in a while, and while I'm doing that, I am going to be cutting up the broccoli, which is the next part. So I'm going to let this cook while I slice up some broccoli. And so I'm hoping to turn this here. I am just using this container, like a container like this. I would say this is probably a pound. Well, it says 1.73 pounds. I'm not probably going to use the whole thing. I would say the recipe calls for 1 to 2 cups of fresh broccoli cooked. And then I double that because I'm doubling my recipe. So, I don't know. We'll see how much I use. Depends on how much broccoli you like in your stuff. I'm going to wash this here. And I can hear my Instapot sizzling and doing its work already. So, I'm going to take this. I would say I'm probably going to use a good pound or so. So what I'm doing with this is I'm going to put it in a container like this with the lid. I found the best way to cook broccoli is, the broccoli is not going to go in the Instapot on this recipe, okay? It's going to go in the microwave. And so what I'm doing is I'm putting it in a container, a glass bowl like this, and I'm just putting florets, you know, like this size in there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 cup of water to the bowl, and I'm going to cover it, and I'm going to cook it for 5 minutes. And it comes out really nicely steamed and perfect for putting back into the Instapot and mixing. So that's what I'm doing here. So I'm going to go back and stir this a little here. I would say that this kind of needs to cook a little bit while you're cutting up the broccoli. So I'm going to pause this until I'm finished doing the broccoli. All right, so this is looking really good. It looks good. It's starting to, you know, I don't know what color it's starting to get, but you can see that the chicken's starting to get cooked a little. And then I've got all of my broccoli cut up right now, and I'm going to go ahead and add 1 cup of water. I would say I've probably got a pound of broccoli here. I use 2 large florets of it. So I'm going to go ahead and get a cup of water, and I'm going to pour that in here. I'm not putting this in the microwave quite yet, but at least it's ready. And then what I'm going to go ahead and do, and I just realized as I was looking at the instructions that I usually do this recipe times 3, and I have a lot left over. So I would say 2 for like a family of 4 would be great. I've got pigs, so I make more, and then we usually like it as leftovers. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use 3 cups of chicken broth. So if you want, you can go ahead and get like a container, like a carton of chicken broth. I think it's like a 32 ounce, and you can, you know, get 24 ounces of it out. What I do is I just go ahead and take something like this, and I fill it with 3 cups of water that I'm going to need. And I make my own chicken broth. So I buy this. It's by Knorr, and I want to say it's in the Mexican section of the store. It's this big container of chicken flavored bouillon, and this is what I use to make bouillon. And so it says that I need 1 teaspoon of chicken flavor per cup. So I am, find a teaspoon here. So I'm going to put 3 teaspoons of this into my water. And I like this because then I always have it on hand. Okay, so I'm putting 3 teaspoons into my 3 cups of water. Mind you, I'm tripling the recipe again, guys. All right, and so then what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to dump it I just hit my Instapot to off just because it's been sauteing for a bit here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to wait on that. I'm going to put my rice in first, okay? So I use this instant rice, white rice. You can use brown rice, whatever you want. It's calling for 1 1/3 cup of long grain rice. So I'm tripling this recipe, so I'm going to do 3 cups of rice. Okay. And then I'm going to pour on my 3 cups of chicken broth. Okay. Pouring that in there. And I'm just going to mix it up a little bit. Then the recipe is calling for like, it says salt and pepper and garlic powder. Since I use so much garlic, minced garlic, I don't put any more garlic powder in. But I do use nature's seasoning. So you can just follow the directions and use salt and pepper if you'd like. I just season it with nature's seasoning, and you know, I'm not a recipe kind of girl. So I just kind of, I don't measure things. So I just put some of that in there. You can see it's kind of like a soupy. I'm trying to put the... All right, so at this point we are going to cover up this. We've got like a soupy mixture here. We're going to cover this up. and we're gonna close this up. You wait until it closes there, and you're gonna wanna make sure this is in the sealing position. And yes, it is kind of flippy, okay? Just put it in the sealing position. And then on here, you're going to hit pressure cook, and then you're gonna go to your time that you need it. So this one says manual high pressure for 5 minutes. So I'm just taking this and I'm putting it down to 5, okay? And that's all I'm doing. And then you're gonna hear, listen for it. See, it just flicked on. So this means that you know it's on now, okay? So this is for 5 minutes that we're cooking this for. And make sure that this is in the sealed position. Now, this is going to be the time that you want to go ahead and you want to put your broccoli in for 5 minutes, okay? So you're going to take your broccoli again and put it in your microwave, covered. Remember, you've got a pound of broccoli in here about, and 1 cup of water, and you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna put it in your microwave for 5 minutes. Okay, so it took about 8 minutes to come to pressure and start the countdown from 5 to 0. I would say that if you didn't triple the recipe, it would be a tad bit less, so maybe 5 minutes. So total time in Instapot is probably going to be maybe like 15 minutes. Now you can hear it beeping and it's on L000. This means it's ready to depressurize. So this is going to be a quick release on this one. So I'm going to flip this button to the vent position and you'll see it's venting. And so you want to keep venting this until you don't hear the hissing and your top will turn. So it just takes like a minute or so. In the meantime, I am going to take my broccoli and I'm going to drain the remainder of the water out of it. And I'm going to get my shredded cheese. Okay, so I don't hear this hissing anymore. So it's safe to unlock. Okay, so I'm unlocking it. Then what I've done is I've gotten my milk ready. So this recipe calls for 1/2 cup of milk for one recipe. I tripled it, so I've got 1.5 cups of milk here. I've got my broccoli drained, and then I have cheese ready to use, shredded cheese ready to use, okay? So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pour my milk in. And I'm going to stir it in real good. So this recipe does call for flour. I never, ever use flour. I don't need to thicken it. It's usually pretty good. Okay, then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go ahead and put my cheese in. So it says between 1.5 to 2 cups of shredded cheese. I would say that what's remaining in here is a little over 1 cup, so maybe 1.5. So I'm gonna put that in and stir it around real good. This is going to melt in there real nicely. And then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add my broccoli in, okay? And I just put some in. I'm gonna see what it looks like, mix it in real good. You can tell that it needs a little bit more broccoli, so I'm gonna put the rest in. Mix it up real good. So you can see why I tripled my recipe, because I just feel like it really is an appropriate amount for 5 people, and then just to have a little left over. I'm going to add a little bit more cheese to mine, so I'm going to put it more like 2 cups of cheese. Mind you, the recipe called for 1.5 to 2 cups of cheese for just one batch. But I don't use that much cheese in it. I just stick with the 2 cups for 3 times the recipe. So this looks like an appropriate amount. So I just let this kind of, because I had just put milk in it. So I just let it kind of sit and warm a little bit. Just so you know, once the Instapot stops, it does have the keep warm. And you can see that it's been keeping warm for 5 minutes. So this is ready to serve. So, yeah, so I like, my kids seem to like this, you know, they add a little bit of hot sauce to it or a little bit of lemon pepper sometimes, but it's, yeah, real nice and tasty and easy to make. So this is 5 bowls full, and then that's how much is left, not that much. So now you understand why I triple.